What's up guys, Lockie here, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to ask questions that make you millions. I was fortunate enough to build $1 million a month business by the age of 26, and let's jump into my screen. I'm going to cut straight to the chase. I'm going to teach you how I did it with something I've never heard anyone talk about ever before, which is the skill of asking questions that will make you millions of dollars. I'm going to show you how I learned this skill. I might include the one question I asked at 18 that changed the next 5 years of my life that you really want to hear, okay? So let's get into it. The first thing, and I've never heard anyone talk about this, I have no fucking clue why, but in the real world, there's no textbook, there's no teacher, there's no test on Monday. Most people stay broke because they were never taught how to learn, not because they're dumb. Let me say that again. Most people stay broke because you were never taught how to learn. Okay, and the number one skill for learning in the real world is asking better questions. So in high school, in college, whatever, you actually never learned how to learn because there was a teacher who would stand in front of you and force you to read shit and memorize useless pieces of information, and then they'd fucking grill you and roast you, whatever, and you probably have a bit of a negative association to learning. But even if you have a good association to learning, you've probably never learned how to learn. I had to learn this the hard way. And the quote that kind of kicked this off for me was from Tony Robbins, and I read it in the book Awaken the Giant Within, great book, which is the quality of your questions dictates the quality of your life. The quality of your questions dictates the quality of your life. Now, if this is true, wouldn't it make sense to learn how to ask high quality questions? You've probably never even thought about the quality of the questions you ask in your life, and that's probably why you're not achieving things as fast as you want. Now, this is a bit of a story time in terms of how I actually use this to level up in my life. So job number one I got was cold calling. I fumbled McDonald's jobs before this, but my first real 9 to 5 was cold calling. And I had read the book and I actually started to test this out. So I befriended the best closer, the best cold caller in the company. And I asked him lots and lots of questions. How do you sell? How do you sell differently to other people? Dude, how are you always at the top of the leaderboard every month? And you know what happens when you ask successful people questions? They are fucking shocked. They're like, what the actual fuck? Someone's asking me questions? Someone's asking me how to get better in their own lives? They will, and this is like one of the biggest things, people think successful people are pricks. They're not. The most successful people I've ever met have always been the most generous with knowledge because they go through fucking thick and thin to get that knowledge. And they've almost never been asked questions around their knowledge, and they love giving younger people who are ambitious and hardworking advice. Now, you may find 1 or 2 pricks, but the vast majority of people are extremely generous with their knowledge. If you're asking someone who's super social media famous, maybe they're just too busy, they can't get to you. But he was more than happy. He's like, what the fuck? There's this 18-year-old kid. He was probably late 20s, 29, asking me questions about sales. Yeah, I'll happily answer you. I offered to pay for his lunches. I offered to pay for his coffees. And I did. And oftentimes he's like, dude, no, whatever. I'll just answer the question. Whatever. What do you want to know? And so I asked him question after question after question for about a year. It actually didn't take me a year to get better than him, but I was asking lots of questions. I was asking questions to the managers after my first week. How do you think that I'm doing? And I was crushing it. So like, what the fuck are you asking me a question for? Like, I have people here who actually should be asking me questions about how they're doing and they're not asking. So this is actually where I learned trial closing. So this is the one of the things. So I used to hear him pitch on the phone, and we were selling yellow page digital ads to tradespeople. And he would say some shit like, wouldn't it be good if when people typed in painter in South Yarra in Melbourne that you showed up first, right? And they'd say yes. And he'd be like, okay, cool. I want you to type in painter in South Yarra. Can you see what's at the top? Yeah, it's yellow pages. Wouldn't it be good if you showed up there, right? Yeah, and long story short, he basically got them to say yes 6 to 10 times before he then said, so I'm gonna book you in with the team on Monday. It's $200 a month, it's $2,000 up front. Does Monday work for you? And they said yes. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? No one else is doing this. So I learned trial closing, I implemented myself, and then my sales went bang. And I kept asking him questions until I felt like I kind of knew everything, and I practiced it a lot. And then I became the best sales rep in the company at 18 in maybe 60 days, I think it took me. But I asked because lots and lots of questions. Job number 2 is the marketing agency. So I worked there for 1.5 years. Fucking hated my life, wanted to pull a bullet in my brain because cold calling sucks, and I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I got a job at the #1 fastest growing digital marketing agency in Australia. And in the interview, okay, because I'd learned the power of questions by this time, I had a job interview with the founder. He offered me the job. And then before I was walking out the room, I said, what's the number one thing you'd focus on if you were me to be great at this job? That's a good question. And if you have a job, if you've ever had a job, if you've never asked the founder that question, you're starting to see the gap, right? When I was 18 at the time. And his answer was learn copywriting. And that one answer honestly changed the trajectory of my entire life. But especially the next 5 years. That one skill, copywriting, and that one question has made me millions of dollars in my 20s and has helped me provide so many employment opportunities to so many people just because I asked that one question at 18. So many people think they're not successful because they haven't caught their big break, because there hasn't been the opportunity, or they didn't get lucky, or they got dealt a shit hand. Fucking newsflash, everyone has been dealt a shit hand in some way, shape, or form. You have opportunities to change your life staring at you, in front of you, every single day. If you have anyone in your life who is more successful than you, and you can even speak to them, that is an opportunity to ask a life-changing question. Then I berated him with questions for the next 18 months. I'll keep this short because I think I've spoken about this before, but his office was down the end of the hall, and like my office, my seat, I didn't have an office, was like a long rectangle table, right? And so he had to walk past me to then go upstairs to go to the water cooler, make a coffee, get his lunch, whatever. And it became like a running joke where I would hear the door slide open from his office like 20 meters away. And then as he was kind of like coming down the line, like pretend I'm working and he's coming this way, I would like push my chair out and I'd slide over. I'd be like, hey, what's up? What's up? Like as he's 5 minutes away and he's like, oh, fuck, here we go. What is it, Lockie? Like, what is it this time? I can't catch a break. Sometimes he'd be like, no, I'm done for today. No more questions. Because I had a list of questions on my computer that I would ask him every fucking opportunity I had. That is how aggressive I was with it. And he loved it. Obviously, sometimes he's like, Luke, dude, I just don't have time. But he loved it because he saw potential in me. He saw someone who wanted to be better. He saw a younger version of himself in me. And he was happy to give me the knowledge. And I learned probably the equivalent of like 10 years worth of marketing knowledge from this guy who was an exceptional marketer in the space of a year. And I did that because I knew long-term I would go and do my own thing, and marketing was a skill that I would want to have. And this guy was a gangster at it. So I didn't, and like I would look around, and I still fucking think this, to be honest. I would look around at people doing their jobs, people complaining about doing their jobs, people wishing that they weren't at work, blah, blah. And I was like, are you guys fucking retarded? Like this dude right here is running a $10 million a year business. You have access to him all day to ask questions. You haven't asked him a single question. Like, and you complain about how you're miserable with your life, you want to make more money, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't even ask this guy any questions. Like, it still makes no fucking sense to me. It makes no sense to me. Anyway, vamos. So, what is the number one predictor of success? It's how many questions you ask, okay? So after this, I went and started my own company, and I didn't really have a direct mentor. I paid for mentorship courses, asked them fuckloads of questions, but I was a little bit more on my own. I didn't have someone I could directly go to. So my learning curve did slow down a little bit. But when I was scaling my sales team, my top feedback was never how to close. To my salespeople, it was ask more questions. So think about it. Out of all the advice I could give my sales reps, my appointment setters, my closers, my managers, they're taking sales calls. I can give them how to handle an objection. I can give them this awesome way to pitch the offer, how to sell the guarantee. I could tell them anything. But the number one thing I repeated the most was you need to ask me more questions. Because if you don't ask me questions, the only time you're ever gonna learn is when I'm actively teaching you like a fucking teacher at school. But I'm busy, man. I got shit to do. My priority, it is to train the team, but like it's like you don't want your learning and your development in your career and your life to be dependent on you being my priority and me being able to prioritize you learning. It's an absolute fucking recipe for disaster. And so you have to take your own learning and your own progression in your life into your own hands aggressively, okay? Every millionaire I know asks questions at an almost intrusive level. You just have to have zero shame. If you don't understand something, Obviously, if you don't know how to tie your shoes, fucking Google it, right? Like I tell them to just Google it. Sometimes they ask me a dumb question. You have to have no shame when it comes down to asking a question. If you ask a question, they give an answer and you still don't understand it, dude, ask again. I love this story from Phil Jackson, who was the coach of Michael Jordan and the Bulls team that crushed it, and then eventually also Kobe Bryant and the Lakers team that crushed it. And he said on Kobe Bryant, rest in peace the GOAT, he asked so many questions that he thought he was uncoachable. But it's just that he wanted to understand it deeper than everybody else. And that's kind of how you want to come across if you're a great mentee. Instantly, I would know if a new employee was going to crush it because they would ask me questions and I'd be fucking shocked that they asked me questions. Alrighty, let's get into some actual tactical questions for you to write down. There's a million questions I could have put here to write down. So this is the stuff I'm going to give you. I'm going to go through it quickly, so feel free to pause the video. The gap, and this is an important thing here, the gap isn't between you and the thing that you want, the money you want to make, the lifestyle, the car, the watch, the travel, whatever. It's between you and becoming the person who can get the thing. Brian Tracy has this amazing quote that changed my life, which is making $1 million is not the important thing. It's becoming the person who can make $1 million. That's the important thing. So when you think about asking questions, sure, you can ask questions like, how do I get to 10K a month? How do I make 30K a month in commissions if I'm a sales guy? How can I find a job that allows me to work remote? Yes, you can start with those questions. Those are the simple, easy ones. But just someone answering that is not going to help you really achieve it. It's kind of like one half of the puzzle. They could say, we should start an online business. And it's like, okay, well, how do I start an online business? Again, not a bad question. But then it's like, who do I need to become to have a successful online business and make $10,000 a month from anywhere in the world? Who do I need to be? And so these questions here kind of help with that. So what's the difference between me now and the me who can achieve this? And you often just need to sit down and think. This question is not going to pop out at you on this video right now, okay? Please understand that. This is something you have to go and do in your own time with a pen and a pad later on in silence. So you need two things. You need the knowledge and then to act on it. But what are you acting on if you don't already have the knowledge? So this is kind of how you get the knowledge. So here are some money questions. So the number one thing you can do is ask people who already have what you want the questions. That's the best source of information to go to. Go to people who have what you want and ask them questions. Anyone else who gives you their fucking bullshit, unsolicited opinions, just say thanks for the feedback and then it's water off a duck's back. Don't debate them on it. If your parents don't think you should start a business, your parents aren't fucking internet entrepreneurs, just don't debate them on it. We're probably gonna say some whack shit when we're fucking 60 years old and parents and don't understand AI and all this crazy shit as well, okay? So ask people who have what you want and ask about who they are, not just what they did, because success leaves clues. Yes, you need to ask some action questions, of course, if you don't understand anything about who they are and what they do, but if you also focus on who they are, if you meet a dick who'll be like, dude, that's kind of a weird question, and he's probably some loser bro who's kind of gotten lucky, so fuck that guy. But most people will actually be super G entrepreneurs who are like, huh, this guy's smart, he's different. He's asking me, number one, he's asking me questions which no one fucking does, and number two, he's asking me different kinds of questions. So here are some simple ones to get your brain juices flowing, all right? What's different about you versus people who don't get this result? And listen intently, write that shit down. Like, dude, if someone came up to me, asked me this question and wrote down the answer in front of me with a pen and pad, I'd be like, dude, what do you do for work? Like, can I hire you? Like, I'd just be impressed. What beliefs or convictions do you have that others don't? Because everyone's so focused on tactics. But dude, all the tactics to make $1 billion fucking are on YouTube for free. So why aren't we billionaires? It's because it's not just the tactics. The tactics are the simple part. It's who has the tactics, okay? What limiting beliefs did you have to overcome? These are kind of really big ones if you're in your initial journey, which is probably who this applies to the most. If you were me, I like this one. What question should I be asking that I don't even know to ask? This is a phenomenal question. The only people I've ever been asked this question by are people who I fucking told to ask me that question. This is more of a Tony Robbins question, which is, I learned this in his book, which is, your brain is an answer-making machine. So if you ask low-quality questions, I'm glad I remember this. If you ask low-quality questions like, why does this always happen to me? Why isn't this fair? How did this person fuck me over? How does this negatively affect me? Why is this their fault? Why is this unfair? Why shouldn't have this happened? Why do I always have to deal with this? Why is this my problem? If you ask low quality questions, which by the way, will automatically happen subconsciously because your brain is like the weeds grow and you have to consistently actively pull out the mental weeds with good questions. But most people, they have like this unconscious rhythm of low quality questions that keep them locked into their bitch ass, broke ass identity. Okay? And it's because you weren't taught this. So, you know, it's not 100% your fault if you want to use that as a cop out. So one of the questions I got from Tony Robbins, which I'm still asking myself to this day, which is how can I achieve my goals and have fun? He talks a lot about this. A lot of people will ask the question, how can I sacrifice everything to achieve my goals? But he asks questions like, how can I achieve my goals and have fun? How can I build $1 billion business and have a great marriage? How can I build my business while also losing weight at the same time? And if you want the answer bad enough, your brain will find the answer. Extract the knowledge, the half the time question. So if you'd done this, again, asking the person who has the result you want, if you'd done it in half the time, what would you have not done? What would you focus more on? What actions and beliefs drove most of your success? What mistakes would you go back and avoid? What do people think is working but actually isn't? These are great questions because typically when you don't know a lot about something, people can tell you what to do. And because you're a moron and you've never done it before because you're a beginner, you're not actually a moron, I'm just being funny with you. You're gonna work on that, plus like 80 of the things that are completely fucking dumb, okay? Like with my team, sometimes I tell them to do something and they'd be doing that, but 6 other things. And I'm like, dude, where the fuck did you even get the idea to do this other shit? And they're like, oh, I'm following this sales guru on YouTube. This other guy's course said you should do this, but I saw some other sales guy have sex with this. I'm like, dude, what? It's like, yeah, my thing will work if you do it, but only if you do that. Not if you do 50 other different things. It's like someone teaches you how to build a successful fucking e-commerce brand. It's like, that'll work if you're not doing 5 other fucking businesses, okay? Get aggressive with the feedback. So even harder than getting the knowledge is you need to be asking what would it take type questions once you're actually implementing things. So what would it take for you to review my sales goals? This is a little bit more about like being smarter and trying to get a mentor. I'm going to do another video on that soon. Actually, heaps of people have been asking me, how do I find a mentor? So subscribe, like the video. I'm going to be dropping that very shortly, how to find a mentor. The questions like, what would it take for you to be my coach, for me to work for you? So when I met the sales guy at the cold calling job, I said, dude, I'd love to buy you lunch. Can I buy you your lunch for you to just talk to me about how you sell differently than other people? Can I stay back with you for 30 minutes tonight and just get your help on this call? Because I had this objection, I couldn't handle it. And like I said, people are pretty generous. How can I get paid to learn the skill from people who are great at it? This also changed my life with the cold calling job and then the agency job. In the space of 3 years, I had like a decade worth of sales and marketing knowledge. Granted, I went fucking hard, but like, this is a great question to ask. And also like, if you're trying to find a mentor, just a quick side tip, don't make them work to tell you what's going to take for them. So like, bring some ideas and shit. But again, good questions to ask a potential mentor. Then you want to audit yourself. So once you actually start taking actions and stuff, you're just going to be blindly taking actions. It's going to be in the right direction because you've got way better advice and a way better North Star and compass direction, let's call it. But you still need to self-check and self-audit because you're going to fuck a lot of shit up. So what are the 20% of the actions that is driving 80% of the results? This is a really good question, especially for people who have a bit more success, a little bit more advanced with question asking, a bit more leverage in what they can actually do on a daily basis. Speaking of leverage, am I on the highest leverage task? The real constraint or busy work? How often am I actually talking to my customers? And what's on my to-do list that I completely eliminate? Obviously, this is a bit more of a founder product-based question. I love this question. This is my favorite question. What can I delete off my to-do list? I love that question. The best way to get shit done on your to-do list is to just delete it. And the more money you make, the higher up you get in business, the more aggressive you are and the less of a fuck you give about deleting things off your to-do list. I feel like I'm more productive when I delete things on my to-do list rather than when I actually do them. It's the best feeling. Train the question muscle. So asking questions is a muscle. Muscle. No reps, no growth, dude. 10 years of practice is what I put into this. 10x results in half the time. Leader reps, you should be asking your team, how can I be a better leader? What do you need from me I haven't given you? What can I do better? When I was running my sales team, I would have a one-on-one with every sales team member every single week. And on every single end of week, I would force them to answer a question that said, what can I do better as a leader? What do you need from me? How can I help you hit your goals? And that was good. I had feedback from every single one of my employees every single week. When's the last time your boss asked you, how can they be a better boss? Probably never. I never had a boss ask me that once. Super stupid for the head of the company to not be getting feedback themselves and remain a student. But the reason I put this here is as an analogy, okay? This is going to be really hard and not as effective for you when you first start, because it's like a muscle. If you go into the gym, you've never been to the gym and you're doing bicep curls, dude, you ain't Ronnie Coleman, man. Like, you ain't him. Like, you ain't got it like that yet. You gotta put those reps in, cuz. You gotta be shooting up that TRT, cuz. Joking, mostly. So you gotta get the reps in, man. You gotta practice asking lots of questions again and again and again. And then you need to ask more questions, the higher intensity questions. Sit down for it with a pen and pad for hours and think of good questions to ask. And you will slowly get better asking really high quality questions. And as the quality of your questions improve, the quality of your life shall also improve. So some action steps for you, my young Padawan. Pen, pad, clear head, a fresh environment to spark it up. Don't do it at the desk you always work at. Go to a random coffee shop. Go to the middle of the fucking Amazon jungle. Go to the Sahara Desert. I don't care. Get out of your zone, man. And right at the top of the page, what questions would change the trajectory of my life? Then push. The good answers aren't easy. Who can I learn from? If I could get in contact with anyone right now and get them to mentor me, how would it change my life? Who has what I want? How can I get a job working at that company so I get paid to learn the skill and then I can ask them for questions? So that's it. I hope this helped you. Man, I wish I had watched this video when I was younger. If you want to learn how to actually get better results and actually find a mentor, I'm going to be dropping a video on that shortly. So subscribe, like, comment if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.